Welcome to the 46th episode of The World of Running. I'm your host, Aditi Pandya. We all remember Sifan Hasan in her debut marathon, where her hamstring troubled her so much that she at one point had to lose the elite pack of runners. And then we all know how she made a history by winning her debut. That may be a lot of self confidence, practice, or we may term it as a racing IQ. Before we go any further in today's episode, I have a request for all our listeners. If you like our podcast, please do subscribe to it and share it with someone who's yet to discover us. If you like our content and would like to understand more about running, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Geeks on Feet, and also subscribe to our newsletter. Do check out our online training plans at Runstrong. On a race day, we are dealing with a controlled chaos. We all love a good race plan, but what happens when things don't go as expected? In this episode, we will cover how to stay in control even though when things don't go as planned and you have to adapt on a fly. It's not just about how well you have trained. It's about making the right decisions when it counts. This episode explores how to build race day instincts and intelligence that will help you excel your running on a race day. Our guest for today is Vijay Venugopal. Vijay is one of the leading masters marathon runner in India. He already has 10 sub 3 hour timings in his marathon under his belt. He has completed all the 6 major marathons. His best marathon effort came just recently at London in 2025, where he ran a 2 hour and 47 minutes. Vijay is the co-founder of India's leading nutrition brand, Fast Enough, and is based out of Bangalore. Hi Vijay, welcome to our today's episode.
Hello, Aditi. Thanks, and nice to be back with Geeks on Feet.
Yes, it's been a while that we saw you last. And while this is after a long time, it has been a pleasure talking to you about your recent races. And I know how you've dealt with some of these on the fly decisions of your recent races, and it will be a great episode to dive deep. So, Vijay, race day instincts are something I've heard that runners mature over a period of time. And especially for those who are just getting into running or are graduating from half to a full, race day IQ is about making decisions under pressure. So, can you share a few examples where you had made these crucial decisions on the fly and how it has affected your outcome?
So, Aditi, I really like the subject of racing IQ because that is something that a lot of people don't discuss too much about. And when this opportunity was discussed with me, I really felt that it is something that should be imbibed by every runner over a period of time. And for me as well, racing IQ has come over a period of time. I have had my share of mistakes dealing with situations, but I probably am in a more comfortable zone right now. And to answer your question, I would like to probably give 3 examples from my races. 2 of them successful incidences, and one of them not so happy. Uh, so the first one was going back to my Tokyo Marathon effort. That was in 2024 uh, March, and typically all us marathoners do use gels, and we try to take whatever we can, mostly on in our shorts, and I typically take around 8 to 10 gels with me for a full marathon effort, trying to have one gel every 20-25 minutes from a broad calculation standpoint. And the way I do it is half of it roughly is in my front, where I uh, have it with a safety pin and make get the gels out there, and the rest I keep it inside the pocket behind. And during the marathon, I had exhausted all my gels which I could take uh, easily, around 28 kilometers, and I was trying to open the zipper, the pocket behind, and it was just not opening at that point of time. I tried once, twice, thrice, and all this was being done when I was running at around a 4 to 4.2 minutes per kilometer. I was also feeling that there was a high chance of me getting a spasm or a sprain if I keep trying to do that. So I had a choice just to leave that and start running my race and see how that evolves. So I think probably that was the most happiest decision that I made on that day. And then I went ahead, making sure that I run as fast as I could to reach the destination without the need for gels. So that was, I think, a smart decision that I did on that day. The second incident was in India, the TSK 25 2023, which is a 25 kilometer distance. I was targeting a pace of around 3 minutes 55 seconds per kilometer, and we were all running as a pack at that point in time. And I remember that course has one flyover which happens, and while I was on the descent, I could hear a small click on my right hip flexor, and I noticed that I had a small pain which started appearing once the decline was over. So I still had around roughly 10 kilometers, 10, 11 kilometers to go through. So I had to do a couple of things. One is not overstride at that point of time, not to run faster than what I'm capable of at that point of time. So I kept doing that. But the interesting point was roughly around 4 kilometers from the finish line, where I probably took some inspiration from Sifan Hasan on that year, where she stopped and then went back to win that race. So I actually went sideways to almost 20 meters off where there was a medical tent, got a Volini or whatever was available at that point of time, and we had a pack of around 3-4 people who went ahead, and they were roughly 200 meters away when I had to come back, and then I started catching them. So I think at that point of time, the decision was purely based on the fact that, one, I had to get something as a medical attention to help me sustain the 3-4 kilometers, and secondly, it also gave me a carrot in front of me to come back and keep a goal in front to catch, which served me well because at the end I probably overtook the pack of 3-4 people and finished ahead of them. So that was the second instance. The third instance, which possibly didn't go well, was 2019 New York Marathon, where I went into the marathon not so well prepared, felt not so confident. So a couple of days before the marathon, I remember there was this noise around Vaporfly around that time, 2019. I walked straight into the New York Nike store, picked up a Nike Vaporfly, which I've never done ever. I've never used a Nike before, so that was the first time I used. It was just to overcompensate my lack of confidence for the race. I went into the race after a few runs and started off, and I thought I was flying because the shoe really had a lot of bounce, and I was going at a pace which would have taken me to a 250, 252 full marathon at that point of time, which I was not even prepared for. So my racing instinct at that point of time or now would have told me to slow down and not be carried away with that kind of bounce and that kind of pace. But nevertheless, I just felt so good and thought it was my day, and went all the way up to around 32 kilometers, and then started crashing quite a bit. So these are three instances where I think I made decisions on the race day or around the race day, and two of them were successful, one of them was obviously not.
Yeah. So, Vijay, because you spoke about gels and you spoke about cramps, I would like to share my share of experience. It was 2023 Delhi marathon, and that was a time. Um, I after 28th kilometer, I also started getting cramps, and same as you said, I had to stop at a medical tent. I got myself a Volany, and then after every third kilometer I would spray the Volany. Just and that was a time when I told myself to stop looking at the watch, right? And that was also the race where I had prepared well to be below 340. For the longest time after the 28th kilometer, I did not look at my watch, come what may. I continued to run. I kept spraying, but I think it was a 42nd kilometer when I saw my watch, and it was like a 325. And I'm like, okay, today can be my day because I only have 2 more kilometers. And on and whole, it was a memorable race. But I also feel when you disconnect with the process of chasing a time, or when you start being more kinder to yourself, is when things start coming back. But the second thing I want to ask you is about, we are bombarded by so much of data, right? During the race, before the race, especially paces and splits and elevation and heart rate. So how do you keep a track of these metrics, and when is it when you say now that these metrics are enough and I'm going to go by my gut, or I'm going to go by how I feel?
So Aditi, I really like the way you said be kind to oneself, right? I mean, I'll take it from there and then answer this question.
Sure.
A lot of times, I think the reason why we lose the IQ during a race is because we are not kind to ourselves. Uh, we are particularly harsh on our need to get to a certain pace as quick as possible.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's a 42-kilometer race, you want to crack the pace at which your end goal is right away. So I think what you have said is right on dot. One has to be kind to oneself for all the training that you have done over the last 3 months or 4 months. Now, coming to the parameters, I try to keep it very simple. Uh, I feel that the first 25% of the race, I typically would like to gauge myself on perceived effort, which means that if it's a full marathon, roughly around 10 kilometers, I really need to gauge whether my breath is okay, whether my effort is okay, etc. Right? So it all depends on how good is your perceived effort vis-a-vis your expectation. And then it's just one metric that I follow. I don't really follow anything else. I look at cumulative pace, which means that if I'm pacing a 3:30 bus at the Tata Mumbai Marathon, my sole aim is at the end of the race, I need to be around 4:57. I mean, that's the only thought that comes to me, right? So I can start at 4:54, 4:55, maybe go up to 5:03, but I know 4:57 is my golden point. So I tend to work around that, and that's been my only companion through all the races. So that's it's oversimplification, but that's the way I see it. I don't see heart rate. I don't see kilometer wise split. I do look at it, but I don't get too overexcited or underwhelmed if I miss it.
So, Vijay, with maturity of racing, accumulative timing is something that you are comfortable with. If somebody is trying to get a particular timing, say a sub 2 hour half marathon or a sub 4 hour marathon, how would you talk about the matrix, or what kind of matrix should they um, focus on to make life simple for them?
So I think there are two ways of. I mean, there's one way of looking at it is you divide the entire journey into the training part, where I don't mind if people keep looking at different metrics like heart rate, cadence, your ground contact time, etc. I mean, you can dwell on it. You can see your graphs. You can see is there a pattern, whether you can improve it, etc. For example, I once in a while do look at my heart rate while I'm training, just to understand whether my the efforts that I'm putting in is in sync with the heart rate which I'm used to. I may look at cadence to see where I am. It's not going to change overnight, but still you may want to look at it. But I still feel that when it comes to race day, it's all about giving your best. So leave a lot of these things at home. I think what's more important is, as I said, uh, the pace that you need to maintain to reach that 4 hour mark or 2 hours 30 minutes mark in a half marathon. And maybe extend it a little further and say that you also monitor and keep in your mind how much you need to register every kilometer, where things like variations come into play. For example, if you have a decline, you're going to be slightly faster than what is required, and when it's an incline, you will be slightly slower. So these are the two things that I look at. I don't look at heart rate. I don't advise people to look at heart rate. I don't advise people to look at any other metrics during the race, because race is a full effort that you have to do. So the more you are clinging on to certain metrics, you are actually compromising on your ability to deliver 100% on race day.
So, Vijay, I what has worked for me and in my past few races is, as you mentioned, I go by the feel, and to a very large extent, I rather, even during my practice, I've stopped looking at my watch, because what happens is sometimes the GPS is not that strong, and some the paces will be too. It will be far, my pace would be lower than what I'm actually running, or higher than what I'm actually running, and that generally in the first 2 kilometers of a race also happens, right? Because everybody is together, there's GPS is still trying to figure out things, and so especially for the first 2 to 3 kilometers, I don't look at my watch, and that has helped me also to focus more on my effort than just blindly looking at the watch every 200 meters, right? But having said that, to get here, it is a process, and pacing is a big part of racing IQ, right? Like how you pace, especially as you mentioned, downhill, uphill, or whether it is headwinds and stuff like that. So um, how has your pacing evolved, right? If you can be more granular with respect to, do you rely on watch, or is it the feel, and what is the kind of decision tree that you have developed?
So I need to correct myself here if there is a wrong perception that I gave in the initial part. I think it's very important to look at the watch, and I do look at the watch, but in terms of pure metrics, I don't look at a lot of parameters. I look at possibly the pace and the cumulative pace. That's what I'm trying to say. And also to qualify, Aditi, that I in fact would strongly suggest that in the first 25% of your race or the first few kilometers, you have to go by the watch. The reason why I'm saying it is, in the initial part, you feel good, you have a lot of crowd around you, you can easily be carried away. And after 5 kilometers, you realize that you have probably done your PB in a 5K, which is supposed to be a full marathon run. So I think it's very, very important, even if it's a 5K or a 10K or a full marathon, according to me, to look at the watch and keep yourself in check in the first 5 kilometers. Once you get onto the race, I think you don't need to, I mean, you need to look at it, but I think you'll get into a rhythm by that time. Okay. And what was the question that you were trying to ask?
So the other one was the decision making, right? Like, do you have milestones, and what is the kind of decision tree that you have in your? What is the mental model of the decision tree that you
Fair.
have to identify milestones, right? Because let me break it down. Like, for example, in a 5K, I generally go the first 2 kilometers are so fast, and then when I see my watch, it'll be like a 4 minute per kilometer, or a 404 per kilometer, and it starts playing on my head that, oh, I still have another 3 kilometers to go, but I'm exhausting my tank. So how are you you know having this decision tree where, okay, this is going to be my pace,
Sure.
and as you mentioned that, okay, I do check on my watch, how do you
Sure.
modulate yourself, and
Sure.
do you go like that level of anxiety, how does
Sure.
that play on to you?
So this has changed over years. In the last few years, I would be adopting a slightly different approach to the way I am looking at a race, unlike the earlier part. The earlier part was my end time is always going to be there. It's going to be, say, 3 hours, for example, right? And how do I approach the 3 hours for a full marathon? Uh, I know I need to be roughly around 412 to 415 minutes per kilometer when I end. But I would, out of anxiety and out of lesser confidence, I would try to make things up the first 15-20 kilometers, even at the cost of going slightly faster. And then allow myself the liberty to slow down, for the uncontrollables to take over, etc. And I would probably struggle in the last 4-5 kilometers and then finally end up around the same time. Right? Uh, but what has fundamentally changed, and I think I've begun to firmly believe in this philosophy, is that uh, your race can more often than not go wrong in the first 25 to 30%, which is the first few kilometers, which means that it is very, very important to stick to your plan and the race pace in the initial 10 kilometers of a full marathon. So, if I have to give you an example, right, when I was planning a little bit of about the London Marathon, I mean, internally my goal was I would wish if I can go below 250. That was my wish, and I think the training was roughly around hitting that time, in fact better than that, which roughly translated to a broad strategy for me was that I run my first 30 kilometers at a 4 minute pace, knowing that London is not too hard and the first 5 kilometers is going to be decline. I still felt that the first 30 kilometers I had to be around 4, and then the last 12 kilometers I would go for it. So even if I felt easier to run faster in the first 5-7 kilometers, I had to tell myself not to hurry and to keep that mark sacrosanct. So I knew I was not doing my PBs in the first 5K, not in the 10K. I was perfectly okay because my end goal was not that. And it worked well because I had enough in reserve to deliver in the last 12 kilometers. I also remember the half marathon that I did in Delhi the first week of Feb, where my goal was to do a sub 1 hour 20 minutes, which was a stretch, but I knew I had it in me to do that. The only thing that I had to do was consistently stay around 3 minutes 47 seconds. I didn't need to do anything else. I mean, it looks simple, but I just had to do it, right? But the issue comes that the first 7-8 kilometers, it's cool. Delhi is 11-12 degrees, flat road. You have a lot of excitement. You are already going at 343, 344. Now the key is, how do I control and take it back to 347 or 346? Because if you don't do it, you are going to pay a penalty sometime in your race. So the trick was to hold yourself back and give yourself the best chance of success in the last part of the race. So I think it looks easy now. You need a lot of confidence to do that, but that's what you have trained for.
I also want to understand what is your strategy for shorter distances, right? So the strategy is going to go, say for 5K, do you do faster splits in the beginning, or 10K, the faster splits in the beginning, or how do you how do you keep calm, right? How do you tell your inner self to be confident of whether 10 seconds here and there in the first 5 7 kilometer in say if it is a 10K race, in the first 2 3 kilometers you'll still be able to compensate in the next 4 5 in the last two, again 2 3 kilometers. So how do you keep yourself calm, and what
Sure.
is that conversation?
So I think majority, you are slower than your desired pace only because of the crowd. Uh, I mean, it could, like the typical TCS 10K, if you're starting in a B or A, end of A, etc., there's a lot of crowd
Yeah.
for you to navigate. That's the only instance when you are going to be slower than your race pace. My problem is that a lot of times you have uh, enough space, but you are faster than your required pace. So I have come to believe that for a successful 5K or a 10K as well, you need to be, typically a even pace is something that I really love to execute. And if it's an even pace that I'm trying to execute, then I cannot afford my first 2 kilometers to be faster by, say, 15 seconds or 10 seconds. Because I believe that you're simply blowing up your latter part. So, crowd management is a difficult thing. I mean, there I think you need to stay patient. I think you just need to forget the first kilometer and not to overcompensate everything in the next kilometer or so. So a lot of times I've seen that, let's say we tend to run slower than uh, 4 kilometers for a 40 minute 10K, right? You are at first kilometer, you are at 4:15, 4:20, and you tend to compensate that 15-20 seconds in the next kilometer, which means that you are actually running at 3:40.
Yeah.
It's as good as running your uh, interval,
Yeah.
and you are in no way going to uh, get your composure back after those first 2 kilometers and then have an even pace for the next 8 kilometers. So I think ideally so that comes with patience, that comes with experience to compensate over a 2-3 kilometer period, and then try to finish your race.
And when so we so all this thing is going fine, right? And then there is these headwinds, right? So especially when you do a Bengaluru 10K challenge, we know that there will be few headwinds if it is a good weather. And then you have the 7th kilometer, which is uphill, right? And there can be a few hits and misses. And if you keep looking at your watch, or if there is like a you're lagging behind by 10 10 12 seconds, um, your morale is down, right? No matter that that it will affect you in a larger scheme of thing by only 20 seconds, right? Like, and I can say this because it has affected me, and I had mentioned earlier that if I think that if everything would have been right, I would have improved by 10 seconds. But coming back and bringing the focus back and saying, okay, this has happened and I'll have to move on quickly. How do you suggest that those things can take place?
So I feel that a lot of times we uh, knowingly get into that zone of exposing ourselves to those vulnerabilities. But uh, if you have two examples, like the heat is one example, and heat or getting
Headwind.
cold, right,
Yes.
is one example, and then the wind is another example, right? For weather, the best way to get into that race is to be very well prepared for all eventualities, which means that you overdress, but be willing to uh, throw away whatever you don't need during the course of the race. So, coming from a racing IQ perspective, it actually plays into your mind that you are so well prepared, and uh, you having a control over what to throw is in itself a show of confidence, right? So I've loved doing that in many races just because it gives me a sense of control during the race. When it comes to headwinds, etc., typically I think a certain race would have headwinds, like the 10K challenge that you mentioned, or while going through the sea link in uh, the Tata Mumbai Marathon. So I think what I tend to do is run along with people during those sections and force myself to do it. I, even at the cost of compromising those extra 5 seconds, uh, I would still tend to run with somebody. So I can give you an example where in many of these instances, even in a full marathon, I know I'm not going that 5 seconds faster because I'm capable of going 5 seconds faster. I know the pool of 2 3 people are running slower than me, but I still would stick to them for that kilometer stretch because I need them at that point of time. And after that kilometer is over, then I have that energy to take off. So sometimes I get into this, I mean, we tend to get into this game of trying to prove ourselves and get faster, especially on an incline. I have seen this happen in Hyderabad, for example. I've seen it happen elsewhere, that when an incline happens, intelligence would tell you to stick behind somebody. But we want to outsmart that other guy and tend to take that lead and push ahead. So I've learned over a period of time not to do that. I save myself at that point of time and then use that energy at the later part of the race.
Yes. So I totally agree. And this has been my, so like how you mentioned about Hyderabad hills, right? They are very notorious. And when I just started to run, I used to be this one person who would want to like fight the hill, right? Rather than like be with it. And then over a course of time, you just mature and you know how to deal with them and befriend them basically. So early on you spoke about your Tokyo marathon and how you were not able to take out the gels, right? So these are um, these are moments when you're thrown thrown back, or if I have to say, you're taken off guard, right? Because you know that gels are going to help you, give you energy for the next 7 kilometers, and your happened at the 28th kilometer. So when such things don't go as planned, right, you need to have a course correction, or you need to start talking to yourself in a way where um, you need to be calmer, or you need to be more focused, or you need to be more controlled. Can you tell us what was those conversations that you had? Because did you ask for gels from people, or at the counter? How did that happen, and how did you course correct yourself?
So this is interesting because it actually happened that I was running with a fellow runner, and in fact when that 28th kilometer incident happened, I thought, wish I could get one gel and maybe another 20-25 minutes would go, and then I'm probably better off. But it's a good friend of mine. I asked him the gel. He didn't have enough, and it was unfair to
For his
take
ring.
that extra because he was running his own race, right? And that was the point I decided that let me just run ahead and finish the race as soon as possible. Okay, so that was the instinct that happened at that point of time. uh, I didn't really want to experiment with an alternate gel at that point of time, uh, because of obvious reasons. uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because it was too early. I mean, I think if it was the 36th or 37th kilometer, I would have still done it. Uh, but I didn't want to experiment at the 30th kilometer. So, coming back to a question, I think what happens in runs in my mind is a plan A, plan B, plan C, uh, in quick fashion, and then I choose something which I go with, and I try to compensate it with certain other kinds of energy, like the crowd or like the, uh, the course route, or I mean, a lot of times I get energized by the faster runners who run on the course. So those become during that time my energy gels.
Yeah, because I had the similar experience. Again, the same 24 to actually 24 and 25 both years was on in 24 Delhi. My gel fell, and I actually ended up again asking a friend of mine on the course, and luckily he gave me, because it was not his goal race, and he actually gave it to me. And this recent Delhi, I I finished all the 6 gels that I was carrying, and I had these little cramps coming in the last 4 kilometers, and somebody just raced past me, and I just happened to ask that person, do you have an extra gel? And he gave it to me, because again it was not his
Sure.
goal race, right? So I need to be, sometimes you get lucky, or you just have to ask, right? And people are there to help you. So that is another thing that I realized, that rather than suffering in your head, you can just call it out.
So my biggest nightmare, I think, which I which has just never happened, luckily, which I don't know how I will react to, is if my shoelaces come off, right? So I don't have a plan B for that. The only plan I have will be to stop, tie it, and then run. But I know I may not have a calm mind tying it back. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's probably the worst nightmare that I could have while running a race.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That is something that even I have not thought of. So let's talk about our plans versus reality. And we've spoken a lot, right? Like, this is the plan, and the reality was that the gels were not there, or you outrun gels, or you get cramps, and and then that's not in our control. We still, like how you say that, for me, the if not an energy gel, the energy comes from faster runners, right? And is there any, like, it is one is faster runners, but what are the different mental checklist, right? Because if for somebody like me, who ideally runs alone, right? My practice is also, I train solo, and I run, especially I don't have too many, I don't run in a pack even for a race. So how can somebody, if they are currently listening to us, can help have a checklist for, say, a half or a 10K or a marathon?
Yes. In such cases, the way I see it is there are two things which can happen. One is when uh, while on the run, something happens which is going to be difficult for you to achieve some of your goals, right? Uh, which is very tangible. When I say it's tangible, it could be you twisting your leg. It could be you developing maybe asthma during the race, which happened to me once. I was out of breath when I was running a Mumbai marathon around 21-22 kilometers. And the other could be more of intangibles in reality, but yet it plays on your mind, like not having the gels, right? Missing a hydration station. So these are really intangibles which play on your mind, which could have a bearing on the end result. So the way I would look at it is, if the first scenario has happened, then you really need to calibrate your race. So either you can recalibrate and say, I will finish the race, whatever it takes. I can have a DNF, or I could have a more relaxed timeline, right? Maybe even in a possibility of, say, a loo break, for example. I mean, that 5 minutes is gone. Now, you're not going to compensate those 5 minutes if you have never ever run so fast in your training or before. So you would obviously need to recalibrate and have a new end goal point, right? But if it's a second scenario where you don't get your gels, where if you don't hydrate yourself properly, or if you have had a small twist, I mean, this happens during a lot of races, where you have a small twist, but it is not going to bother you too much. In such circumstances, typically what I tend to do is I give myself that space of 5 minutes, 7 minutes, where I need to get back my composure, but yet not lose sight of the final aim. The 5 minutes or so gives me ample time to recalibrate, let things settle down, and then go after the same goal, because your ability to get to the desired goal doesn't vanish, unlike in the first scenario. You're still strong inherently, so you can still deliver. So I think that's where I feel that we will need to take that a few minutes to recalibrate our mind, and then get back on course to achieving that goal. So practically what I'm trying to say is that there are two scenarios, and you deal with it in two different ways.
Yeah. So one is intrinsic, one is extrinsic, where if there is a major sprain, it is better off not to go for a timing that we have had, but more relaxed, walk, run, depending upon the intensity and severity. Whereas the second one is you still have a goal in front of you, and you still have it in you because you have trained for it.
Yeah.
So now coming to domestic races, right, and competition awareness, right? So how, especially in your age group, how does the competition affect you, right? Do you mark your competitors, or do you or you just don't know who is there going to be in your age category, and does that affect you, or is it like, this is my timing and I'm going to beat my own timing? How does that work?
So roughly, you know who are the people who are going to be running fast. Roughly, you know these were the times that were done in the previous years, or what others are capable of. But while running the race, you have no way you can be with them or see where they are or how fast they are running, because it's a mass race and we all start at different points in time, and it's difficult to track them on a second or a minute basis. Even if you cross them or be around them, you don't know when they have started, right? So you cannot just be behind them or just be ahead of them, because they would have started way later than what you have done. So I don't really go by that, but I do derive inspiration from them because I really look forward to seeing people and then helping myself get better on the course. But having said that, yes, I think I know my time and I would like to better that. And by doing that, I know that I would eventually end somewhere in the podium. So that's the broad calculation that I do. Except there was a funny incident which happened probably in 2017 in my TSK 25. Uh, Again, I was running and around 12-13 kilometers mark, a fellow runner comes to me and I was overtaking somebody and a fellow runner speeds a little bit and comes to me again and asks me which age category I am. It has never happened ever in my running journey. I found it hilarious at that point of time, and I had to answer which age group that I uh, was in, and I did my race.
So this reminds me of a few funny instances with me as well. And one is somebody at Delhi Marathon asked me, what is your age category and are you looking to BQ? And this is a lot of conversation for on the 21st or the 22nd kilometer, right?
Okay.
I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. But while I did answer, and then the person takes it on themselves saying, I will help you BQ. I'm like, no, please go ahead. I do not want to like get paced by anybody. But such things
Yeah.
happen, and I think you also have to be cognizant that some person comes from a very from a good space of helping you, and the only thing is that you don't need help, and you need to let somebody know in a polite way as to I'm
Sure.
better off running on my own. So these things do happen. I have seen it. And then there was this another person who told me that I see three girls ahead of you in Hyderabad marathon, and I started smiling. I'm like, I don't care how many girls are in
Yeah.
front of me. Yeah, I think if I start Yeah, I think if I start chasing podiums very consciously, I might not enjoy running as much as
Right.
I'm enjoying right now. My fun and my the fun and sheer motivation to get up early in the morning will go away. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
a good
okay.
end result, I would say. The journey is still the more beautiful part.
Yeah. Yes. And so I want to for our listeners and to help them train with racing IQs, Vijay, uh, ways of stimulating race day instincts, right? And how to work and have an instinct which helps them to get better on a race day, to train in particular way where their experiences of decision making become smarter. If you can share a few thoughts around it.
So I think everyone will have different ways of dealing with it, uh, but I can just share how I do it. A lot of times, I on the go I would see somebody, a pack of runners, and I might be doing my own intervals or my own marathon workouts. If I see some people who are interesting to run with, who are faster than me, I would just take them on.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not let them know it, but inside my mind, I would really be making sure that I'm clinging to them for that kilometer, for whatever it takes. This could even be very fast runners, but I love the moment where I cling on to them even for that minute or two. And sometimes I love the expression that they might have of having to uh, be with somebody who is nowhere near to their race pace, right? So these are moments that I really like because at the end of the day, when it comes to racing, on the race day, uh, I again thrive on such situations where I can go along with people, race with people, cling on to people, etc. I also try to have goals in between. For example, if I'm running on that long Cubbon Park road, sometimes I might see a guy on the cycle who is little ahead of me, and I might try to slightly increase my pace just to be with him. What it does is give me a sense of uh, increasing my speed, uh, and reaching somebody who is ahead of me and overtaking. Sometimes it can even lead to a healthy race. For example, I have seen some of these cyclists who feel that how can a runner be overtaking me, and then they try to speeden up. I try to, get a little faster. So I tend to enjoy those kind of circumstances. Uh, and I also try to do a lot of my workouts on rolling terrains, etc., which really helps me simulate or really builds a lot of confidence into me that I can really go on to a race and do extremely well. So these are some kinds of simulations that I tend to do, apart from the usual fact of having your gels on time, having a hydration on time. So those are tricks that everyone knows. But I think what I've mentioned is some of the things that I tend to do uh, while while racing. Even uh, things like running through uh, running my faster workouts through uh, gates which are closed, where you will only have a narrow uh, entry point, right? Sometimes I tend to do those kind of things just to give me a sense that I would drop by 10 seconds in my pace during that time, and yet I have to make it up after that. So these are small tricks that I tend to do to help me get race ready.
Yeah, so there are few things that we do similar. One is rolling hills. I've realized rolling hills help build confidence, and in general, it over a period of time it just accumulates into a better pace. The other thing is that now I don't stop my watch, right? Just for like a car passing by, or if I have to cross the road and if it is congested, I will just not stop my watch because I just want to ensure that it's okay to,
Yeah.
and that way it also helps me keep myself calm rather than, and if I run a few reps like hill repeats, and if my watch is say shut, I'm okay, right? I'll not get that riled up about the fact that, oh my god, one of my repeats are not being registered, or a few of my repeats are not being registered. I just let it be the way it is, and sail through. Basically, I just move on
Yeah.
rather than marinating the thought. A few mental preps I want to understand from you. How are your preps with respect to before the race or after the race? Right, we spoke a lot during the race, but how much do you stay with the thought of a good or a bad race after the race is over, or how much is the mental manifestation before the race that takes place?
Uh, so before the race, obviously, like a lot of others, I do a lot of visualization of how the race is going to be. So when I said I would be doing 30 kilometers in 2 hours, I try to run through the mind how it will work out, get some sides of the race route, etc., just to get a feeling of how actually it will turn out. That's the pre-race kind of routine. But once the race is over, uh, I mean, if it's a good race, then you go gaga over it and you feel very happy. And, I think that the problem happens when you don't have a good race, right? And I've not had one for the last few years, but I exactly know how it feels because I've had some really bad races, full marathons, and you're obviously dejected. And so I do go back and see the race, how it went, and that typically invariably goes down to my pacing strategy. Uh, I wish I had run a little slower, a little faster during certain phases, uh, and that's about it. I mean, that's where I stop. But more importantly, I would go back into my training, because that was the root cause of what happened
Yes.
during the race day. So for me, it's not the race day, which is more of an introspection, uh, because unlike, say, a game of cricket where you play a rash shot and get out, in running, it doesn't happen so easily. I mean, it's built over a period of time. So for me, it's mostly what I did 3 months before the race day, which means the preparation that I did, whether did I choose the right terrain to do it, uh, whether I had enough recovery, what shoe did I use, right? For example, if you have run all your interval runs on flat terrains using a carbon plated shoe, uh, around areas where your paces are going to be faster than what it really is, and you feel happy about it, and you go into the race day, those are things that I would love to introspect, right? So for me, introspection is mostly to do with what happened before the race day, in fact.
Yes. Yes, and I feel while we need to introspect, I think bouncing back and coming back to present as quickly as possible is just beneficial,
Yep.
right? So one of the things, Vijay, do you have these post race notes, or it is up to you? It is you and yourself having a conversation and closing closing it.
So I used to do it long time back, but I don't do post race roads now, apart from the ones I probably do for Geeks on Feet, when I have to write something down, and that helps me introspect. But I love going back to my Garmin data time and again. So you would find me going back to a race which is 5 years before, and see how I did it. What were my splits? I in fact go back and see how was my preparation a month before that.
Wow.
So just to give me an idea about how good I am now or how bad I am now. So I don't write down stuff, but I still love going back uh, to some of those races, some of those good runs that I've done, and or bad runs I've done, and see what went wrong. So the data is more important for me because some of these thoughts still stay with me.
Yeah, I think I should start doing that more actively. I am somebody who doesn't go back to the data, at least of maybe last year a few races I might, but yeah, maybe I should look at them, because I was telling my friend, I was telling Arvind that it is so funny that we never realize that how far we have come from when we started, because we are still it is this journey that we keep pushing ourselves forward to, right? So that no point I feel that I have come to a place where it is going to that's it, right? There's no, it's no full stop somewhere with the pace. So if I have to ask you to define racing IQ in one sentence, how would that be, Vijay?
For me, racing IQ is possibly the synergy between your body, your mind, and the race itself. So it's kind of a triangle for me where everything has to be in sync. If one of them gets unsettled, I think your race goes for a toss. Uh, just to give you an example, uh, many times your mind would uh, be willing to uh, slow be slower in a race, for example, Uh, for example, the first 5K that we were talking about, right? You're fresh. Your mind says that, uh, 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 or rather, your plan says that you have to be at a certain pace, but your body is fresh. It can go faster. So it has to be in sync, right? And at the same time, you also have that particular race day in mind. So all the three, I think, will have to be in sync, and that's for me is a racing IQ that you develop.
So, Vijay, we are coming to the close of today's episode, and I have one last question: Is what is that one mental tip you'll give somebody who's heading for a goal race?
So I firmly believe in training hard, uh, really giving it all in your training, and believing in your abilities. Because a lot of times I find that people underestimate your own abilities of having trained so much, and that's why you try to overcompensate, do some stupid things in the first few kilometers of your race. So I think training hard and believing in your abilities. And just to add to it, one more thing that I've learned in the last one and a half years is what my coach Melindy Elmore once said, is that training builds fitness. Training doesn't reveal the fitness, which means that when you are training, it's actually building into your fitness. You just need fitness to be revealed on the race day. You don't need to show it up every time you train.
Yeah.
You just need everything to come together and show on the race day. And that's what you're preparing for. So that's where it all links back.
All right, Vijay, thank you. Thank you for doing this episode, and I wish you all the best for the coming season.
Thank you, Aditi. Pleasure being here again with Geeks on Feet.
I would like to thank all our listeners, and if you like this episode and would like to know more on the world of running, please subscribe to our channel. And if you know of someone who is starting their journey into fitness and running, do share our podcast link with them. I would like to thank my friend Arvind for editing, sound recording, and taking care of the post-production for this podcast. If you have any suggestions on improving the content of the show or topics you would like us to cover, please share it by emailing us at connect@geeksonfeet.com. Or you can also reach us through Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram